Certification scheme for personnel. Requirements for the certification of welding instructors and specialist welding instructors. Forward. The certification scheme for personnel CSWIP is a comprehensive scheme which provides for the examination and certification individuals seeking to demonstrate their knowledge and or competence in their field of operation. The scope of CSWIP includes all levels of welding inspectors, welding supervisors, welding instructors, cathode protection personnel, bolting technician, plant inspectors, plastic welders, drill stem inspectors, NDT personnel, heat treatment operatives, brazing examiners, welding examiners, and underwater inspection personnel. CSWIP is managed by the Certification Management Board, which acts as the governing board for certification, in keeping with the requirements of the industries served by the scheme. The Certification Management Board in turn appoints specialist management committees to oversee complex parts of the scheme. All CSWIP board and committees comprise member representatives of relevant industrials and other interests. TWI Certification Limited is accredited by OCAS to BSEN ISO/IEC 17024 for certification of personnel. TWI Certification Limited understands the importance of impartiality in carrying out its certification activities, managing conflict of interest, and ensuring the objectivity of all its certification activities in accordance with BSEN ISO IEC 17024. The requirements governing the registration of master welder instructors are detailed in a separate document. Possession of a welding instructor certificate is one of the prerequisites of registration. Registration is strongly recommended as it helps to satisfy the CSWIP certificate renewal requirements. See clause 11.5. Access to certification. Access to certification scheme is not improperly restricted. The sole criteria for certification are given in the document, and any subsequent amendments and no other criteria will be applied. Certification is not additional on the candidate applying for other services or membership from TWI Certification Limited, its parent, or any other groups or associations. Objectives. The manufacture of safe, cost-effective welded products and structures is critically dependent on the skill of individual welders. In order to ensure welders are properly trained and instructed, a scheme of qualifying welding instructor is essential, as well as bringing benefits to the trainee. It also provides nationally recognized status for the instructor and the training organization employing him or her. Scope. The scheme identifies personnel who have relevant experience in welding instruction, a high level of welding skill, and who have attained a minimum level of knowledge. This document provides the procedures by which certification is sought and the requirements for the approval of the related training course. Categories of certification and definitions. There are two categories of certification as defined below. Welding instructor. A welding instructor is a person responsible for the initial assessment and instruction in the safe and correct practical welding skills required by the trainee to meet his or her or the sponsor's specification. The instructor has duties in supervising trainees, course planning, course delivery, inspection, and testing of welds, and in trainees' record keeping. Specialist welding instructor. A specialist welding instructor is a person whose practical welding qualifications may not be sufficient to satisfy the requirements for welding instructor, although the person can provide safe and correct practical training within his or her welding capabilities in one or more of the following areas. A. Assisting a welding instructor when course numbers exceed practical limits of instructors or trainee levels. B. Providing specialist training courses within their competency. C. Undertaking welder competency assessments within their competency under the overall supervision of welding instructor. A specialist welding instructor is not eligible to be registered as a master welding instructor. Skill requirements. Instructors are required to provide proof of their welding skill through the successful completion of welder qualification test to an acceptable standard. EN 287, ISO 9606, ASME Section 9, EN 13067 and approved equivalents are all acceptable. For railway welding instructors, qualification in accordance with Network Rail Standards NRL2 TRK 0032 and 0132 are acceptable. Application involving qualification test conducted to other standards may be acceptable. Full details must be provided. Qualification test must be witnessed by a recognized third party and certificates must have been obtained or have been updated no more than 1 year before the date of application. Originals or authenticated copies of certificates must be submitted. Welding instructor. To become a welding instructor, qualification must be held in 3 combinations of processes and materials. That is, any 3 of the boxes in one of the tables shown. Table 1. Conventional materials components. Materials are carbon steel, stainless steels, aluminum alloys, copper alloys, nickel alloys, or others. Processes are MMA, MIG or MAG and related, FOCA, TIG/plasma, gas, or other processes. Table 2. Railway materials and processes. Group A rail steels, Group B rail steels, Group C rail steels, other rail steels. Processes MMA, MIG, MAG and related, tubular core wire, aluminothermic process 1, aluminothermic process 2, flash bed. The categories of materials detailed in the above table comply with the groups of materials given in Network Rail Standard NRL2 TRK 002. The categories are shown. Group A rail steels R200, R220 normal grade, R260 wear resisting grade A, UIC 700, UIC 900A, area 900A, UIC grade A. Group B rail steels R260 manganese wear resisting grade B, R2320 chromium 110 kg per millimeter square chromium 90 kg per millimeter square UIC grade B. Group C rail steels R350 HT, HT 340 370. Other rail steels high performance HP 400 MHH R370 CRHT. Plastic materials sectors are fabrication, pipe, geomembranes, welding technique, hot gas extrusion, heated tool butt socket fusion, electrofusion, heated wedge extrusion. Materials are PVC, PP, PE, PVDF and others. Qualification may be held in one welding process used on range of materials, one material for a range of processes or any combination. For all-round competence, a welding instructor is normally expected to demonstrate skill in manual welding of pipe in all positions for each process material qualification held. In specific situations where the training establishment does not train welders in all positions, example criteria for automobile assembly, plastic welding or rail welding, the requirements for all positional welding skill may be relaxed. In such situations, the certificate is to be endorsed to indicate the reduced scope. Specialist welding instructor, where an instructor has skills in a specialist field or is only employed as skilled instructor under the supervision and control of welding instructor, he or she may be as a specialist welding instructor. Qualification must be held in at least one process material combination from the boxes in the previous tables. Qualification test is carried out in the same manner as for welding instructor. Knowledge requirements. Welding technology. Candidates for welding instructor and specialist welding instructor must demonstrate knowledge in the processes on which they give instruction. A typical description of the required knowledge base is given in Appendix 1. Candidates are expected to provide evidence of training covering the appropriate knowledge base. Candidates are recommended to attend a CSWIP approved training course. See Section 9 where appropriate. Instruction techniques. In addition to satisfying the above, candidates must also demonstrate skill in instruction techniques as evidenced by successful completion of relevant course or through documented and authenticated instructor experience. Candidates submitting evidence of past experience must include detailed information of the courses they have been associated with as an instructor in the previous 3 years, including the candidate's role, course title, program, content, and duration. Evaluation of candidates' performance in the course should be included. The examination. Written part. Welding instructors. A multiple choice question examination is designed to test the candidate's knowledge of general welding technology and associate welding processes. The training syllabus is given in Appendix 1. Modified papers may be used in situations where an instructor is attached to a training center which operates with a limited training scope. Appendix 1. Syllabus for the approved instructor knowledge training course. Introduction and objectives. This appendix lists the subjects that must be covered by an approved training course for the welding instructor certification scheme. The order in which the subjects are taught need to necessarily be same as the order in which they are listed here. Where the course is directed and at a specific industrial sector, e.g. automobile assembly, plastic welding or railway track welding, the course content may be modified to concentrate on the particular aspect of materials, welding and relevant related technology, application and safety that are of specific relevance to the sector. Specific knowledge requirements for the instructor in the aluminothermic welding of rails, and for plastic welding instructors are provided at the end of this appendix. The duration of the course must as a minimum be 70 hours. Supervision, production and planning. Introductory responsibilities, duties, qualification and supervisory skills of instructors. See main document section 8. Code and standards. Terms, symbols and definitions in welding standard for welding operations and activities. Industrial practice. Materials of construction. Classification, properties and typical applications of steels, stainless steel, aluminum alloys and other engineering materials in common use. The elementary structure of metals and the effect of adding allying elements. Carbon equivalent formula. Welding technology, welding and allied processes. Description, characteristics and application of the following: manual metal arc welding, submerged arc welding, flux core arc welding, gas metal arc welding, tungsten inert gas welding, oxyacetylene welding, flame cutting and gouging, arc cutting and gouging, welding equipment, principle of operation, principal components of power sources and their ancillary equipment, care and maintenance. Welding practices. Welding consumables, electrode, filler metals, fluxes, gases, etc. and their selection. Standard and classifications. Storage, drying and packing. Hydrogen control. Welding processes variable and their effects. Current, voltage, travel speed, arc length, electrode angle, electrode stick out, polarity, flow rates of shielding and purging gases. Joint preparation. Welding preparation requirements and examples. Cleanliness of weld preparations. Welding procedure specifications. Content, key role in quality assurance. Control of distortion. Factor influencing distortion, for example, joint preparation, fit up, welding speed, welding process used, welding sequence, material thickness, and the use of jigs and fixtures. Remedial action, for example, approval, heating or mechanical techniques, preheat, interpass and post-heat treatment, methods of heating and measurements and control of temperatures. Weld defects. Common weld defects: misalignment, poor shape, undercut, excess penetration, slag, porosity, lack of fusion, lack of penetration. Repair of welds. Properties of welded joints. Properties of welded joints including strength, toughness, hardness, corrosion resistance. Effect of heat treatment including normalizing, annealing, preheating, solution treatment and post-weld heat treatment. Alliance of heat input and cooling rate on deposited weld metal and heat affected zone. Influence of composition of parent metal and consumables on weld properties. Dilution, influence of restraint, weld ability, hydrogen cracking, HLZ and weld, solidification cracking, reheat cracking, transverse cracking and lamellar tearing. Common modes of failure: brittle fracture and fatigue. Influence of stress. Quality assurance and control. Quality assurance, QA, quality manual or quality plan, ISO 3834. Quality documentation for welding, welding procedure specifications, WPS, welding procedure qualification, WPQ, welder qualification and welder records, calibration of welding equipment and instruments. Quality control, QC, requirements of inspection before, during and after welding, qualification of inspection personnel, checking performance and accuracy, calibration, methods of inspection and testing in accordance with the relevant application standards, visual, weld size, form and shape, undercut, lap, surface, destructive, chemical analysis, tensile, bend, impact, neck break, macro and hardness test, non-destructive, visual, magnetic, penetrant, ultrasonic and radiographic inspection, hydrostatic and proof testing, detection and measurement of weld defects, safety and environmental impact, identification of hazards and necessary action to eliminate or reduce hazards. Example of hazards: electric shock, fire and explosion, fumes, cylinder handling, use of scaffolding, X and gamma radiation, welding arcs. Typical safety procedures: safety education, ventilation and monitoring of workplace, eye, ear and skin protection, storage of gases, first aid. Statutory requirements: Health and Safety at Work Act regulations covering workplace, provision and use of working equipment, manual handling operations, personal protective equipment at work, management of health and safety at work, COSHH, environmental, select and use resources effectively with consideration to environmental impact. Additions to Appendix 1: Specific knowledge requirements for instructors in the aluminothermic welding of rails. The items can replace the generic knowledge requirements here as appropriate, but many of the generic requirements will still apply, particularly in the areas of QA and safety. Q codes and standards, terms, symbols, and definitions for rail welding, railway track, group standards, and line specifications that deal with rail welding, materials, classifications, properties, and typical applications of steel used for track, including switches and crossings, the iron carbon diagram, and the effect of cooling rate, rail size and section in common use, welding technology, description, characteristics, and application of aluminothermic welding as applied to rails, welding equipment, principle of operation of aluminothermic welding, and ancillary equipment, e.g., cutting and heating. Welding practice, content and use of process manuals, welding consumables, gases, portions, etc., and their storage and selection, welding process variables and their effects, preheating, reaction times, joint preparation, rail marking, cutting and aligning rails to the required standard and within specified tolerances, taking rail wear into account, selecting the correct molds, fitting and sealing molds, narrow gap and wide gap welds, protection the weld area from bad weather, preparation of welding, preheating the crucible, preheating the joint, fitting the crucible, slag, traps, etc., addition the portion, special requirements for dissimilar metal welds, ignition the portion, reaction time, melting and pouring, cooling time and use of mufflers as appropriate, post-weld activities, removal of risers, use of shearing tools to remove excess metal, grinding the rail head to the required standard, use of tensor equipment, weld defects, common weld defects, misalignment, poor shape, cavities, lack of fusion, etc. Repair of weld. Properties of aluminothermic welded joints: strength, toughness, hardness, metallurgical structure, influence of heat input, cooling rate on the deposited weld metal and heat affected zone, weldability, achieving acceptable weld quality with high carbon steels, influence of composition of rail steel and consumables on weld properties, dilution, quality assurance and control, quality manual or quality plan, process manuals, welder qualification and welder records, care and maintenance of equipment, inspection before, during, and after welding, acceptance criteria, visual inspection and non-destructive testing, safety, personal tax safety regulations, special safety precautions when dealing with exothermic reactions. Additions to Appendix 1: Specific knowledge requirements for plastic welding instructors. These items can replace the generic knowledge requirements as appropriate, but many of the generic requirements will still apply, particularly in the areas of QA and safety. Materials: classification, properties, and typical applications of polyvinyl chloride, polypropylene, polyethylene, polyvinyl dinifluoride, and other thermoplastic in common use. The elementary structure of polymers, welding and allied processes, description, characteristics, and application of the following: hot gas welding, extrusion welding, heated tool welding, heated socket welding, electrofusion welding, machine hot wedge welding. Welding practice: welding consumable, weld rod, pipe fittings and their selection, standard and classification, storage and handling, welding process variables and their effects, temperature, pressure, speeds, time, torch angle, joint preparation, weld preparation, requirements and examples, cleanliness of weld preparations, method of preparation, weld defects, common weld defects, misalignment, poor shape, undercut, excessive penetration, porosity, lack of fusion, lack of penetration, contamination. Written part: Specialist Welding Instructors. A multiple choice question examination is designed to test the candidate's knowledge of the associated welding processes he is currently instructing. The training syllabus is given in Appendix 1. Modified papers may be used in situations where an instructor is attached to a training center which operates with a limited training scope. Practical part: welding instructors and specialist welding instructors. Candidates are required to demonstrate their competence in instructional techniques by supervise a welded test piece, giving a verbal commentary in the presence of an examiner or invigilator, running a classroom session including a minimum of 20 minutes verbal communication. Further detail of examination are given in Appendix 2. Appendix 2: Examination format. General written examination. Candidates will be required to take 30 multiple choice question paper, time allowed 45 minutes, pass mark 60%. Specific written examination: 10 multiple choice questions for each welding process to be covered by the certification, time allowed 15 minutes per process, pass mark 60%. Practical instruction test classroom. The practical instructor test will involve a classroom training session in which the applicant will be expected to give a minimum of 20 minutes verbal presentation. The assessment of the applicant's performance will take account of session objectives, session instructor notes, use of handouts, training aids, implied involvement of trainees, instructor presentation skills. Practical instruction test workshop. Supervise a welded test piece, giving a verbal commentary in the presence of an examiner or invigilator. Required experience. Candidates for welding instructor must have a practical welding background as a welder. 5 years experience as a welding instructor is acceptable in lieu of experience as a welder, welding operator, or welding instructor, and must have a minimum of 5 years relevant welding experience. In exceptional cases, a candidate with experience as a welder in an industry may be accepted for certification with a shorter period of experience, but not less than 3 years, if he or she can demonstrate a competence that would be expected in a mature candidate with 5 or more years practical experience. Candidates for a specialist welding instructor must have a practical welding background with at least 1 year as a welder or welding operator in industry or in a welder training school. Instructors' responsibilities. Applicants for certification as welding instructor will be expected to demonstrate responsibilities and capability in all the items listed below. Discipline and control of trainees, ordering of materials, preventative maintenance of equipment, general housekeeping, counseling trainees, course planning, preparation of training program, preparation for world test assessment, writing course notes and handouts, course delivery, safety and related subjects, instructing trainees to the syllabus requirements, lectures and shop talks to support practical training, practical demonstrations, reading of drawings, instructions in repair procedures, inspection and testing. Testing to recognize standards or industry specification as appropriate. Inspecting of trainee test species. Record keeping. Measurement and recording of trainee competence. Logging trainee progress. Writing reports. Professional development. Carry out continue professional development. Applicants for certification as specialist welding trainer instructor will be expected to demonstrate knowledge and understanding of all those items in the above list marked with a single asterisk and to demonstrate capability in those items marked with two asterisks. Training courses for instructors. Training establishments seeking approval by CSWIP to run training courses covering the requirements of Appendix 1 for potential welding instructor must first submit to TWI Certification Limited as inquiry form to justify an application. If accepted, the establishment must then submit written application accompanied by a detailed training program with course text and visual aids. If acceptable in principle, the establishment will be visited to examine the facilities in place and to interview the staff who will provide the instruction. Courses will only be approved if presented by staff appropriately qualified. A fee is charged for this work and operation of the course is subjected to franchise fee per student. Application for examination and fees. Candidates will be required to submit an application form and a CV. All the information requested must be on these forms. No applications can be considered confirmed until received correctly completed documents. Application forms ask for specified details of experience and training and must be signed to the effect that these details are correct. Candidates proved to have cheated or found to have attempted to remove or found to have removed examination material in a CSWIP examination will not be accepted as a candidate for any CSWIP examination for a minimum period of 5 years from the date of the examination where cheating, attempt to remove or removal of examination material was established to have taken place. Certification. Result notices. All candidates will be sent a result notice. This notice will also be sent to the organization paying the examination fee if not paid by the candidate. Successful candidates. 2 copies of certificates of proficiency will be issued to the organization or person that pays the examination fee. A duplicate certificate to replace those lost or destroyed will be issued only after extensive inquiries. Unsuccessful candidates. Candidates who fail to obtain a certificate may attempt one retest of those parts of the examination in which success was not achieved. The retest must be completed within 1 year of the initial test. Otherwise, candidates will have to repeat the complete examination. Candidates who fail the retest revert to initial status. Period of validity. The certificate is valid for 5 years from the date of completion of the initial test and may be renewed for a further 5 years on application. Provided evidence is produced in accordance with clause 11.5.1, certificates are only valid provided they are within the date They are on standard cream CSWIP paper bearing the CSWIP logo in black or on gold, signed by an officer of CSWIP and embossed with the CSWIP stamp. They have been signed by individual to whom the care certificate is awarded. They are accompanied by a valid official CSWIP identity card. Photocopies are unauthorized by CSWIP and should only be used for internal administrative purpose. Renewal 5-year renewal in order for certificate for welding instructor or specialist welding instructor to be renewed after 5 years. The holder has to demonstrate that he has she maintained his or her competence by providing evidence of continuous work activity in welding instruction, providing evidence that the holder has kept up to date in welding technology. One way of satisfying part 2 for welding instructor is by registration as a master welder instructor. See document number CSWIP WI191 registration scheme for visual welding inspectors, senior welding inspectors, welding instructors and welding supervisors. Registration includes membership of the welding and joining society. Specialist welding instructors may find it helpful to join the welding and joining society. Part 1 can be satisfied either by the employer signing the reverse of the candidate, or if the holder has had a number of different jobs, by submitting a log sheet of relevant work activity covering the period of validity of certificate. Renewal must take place not later than 21 days after the date of expiry of the certificate. It is the certificate holder's responsibility to ensure that renewal takes place at the appropriate time. Only under extreme circumstances will certificates be renewed up to maximum of 6 calendar months from the date of expiry shown on the certificate, and late renewal will be subject to a special fee. 10-year recertification. Welding instructor and specialist welding instructor certificates are recertified beyond 10 years from the initial examination or from a previous 10-year renewal by the holder successfully completing a recertification examination prior to the expiry of the certificate, in addition to the renewal procedure given in clause 11.5.1. The 10-year recertification examination will consist of the following: multi-choice written paper, the initial practical examination, one retest within 4 months of the 10-year renewal examination will be allowed. Failure at the retest point will mean the candidate must take the full course and initial examination again to regain the qualification. Complaints and appeals. An aggrieved party in a dispute which considers itself to have responsible grounds for questioning the competency of a CSWIP qualified person may petition the governing board for non-renewal of the candidate. Such a petition must be accompanied by all relevant facts, and if in the opinion of the board an adequate case has been presented, a full investigation of the circumstances under dispute will be initiated. If the petition is sustained to the satisfaction of the board, the certificate will not be renewed without further test. Appeals against failure to certify or against non-renewal of the certificate may be made by the instructor or the employer upon application in writing to the governing board. Exemptions. Welding instructor who successfully complete the approved course and examination will be exempt from Module 1 and 2 of the International European Welding Specialist Training Course. IEWS diploma holders seeking welding instructor certifications are exempt the welding technology course. Records. TWI Certification Limited maintains a record of successful and unsuccessful candidates. These records are accessible to the governing board or its nominees at all reasonable times. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, share and subscribe please.